Okay, here we are. Finty Williams, welcome to the IAMPRO podcast stroke Q&A. I'm absolutely delighted to have you on here.
It's really lovely to be here. I'm very honoured. Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm all right. How are you?
Good. Oh, I've lost you. Oh, this is not going well. Oh, I lost you then. We're having a few technical issues, so hopefully it'll be all right now. I just lost you then, but I'm glad you're well. So with these chats, I try and squeeze out all the juice of brilliant actors and why they do it and how they do it, basically. So where did you begin, Finty? Why acting for you?
So I grew up with my parents both being in the theatre all the time. And so consequently, I spent a lot of time with them and got to know the people and the plays and the atmosphere and things like that, and the joy, and I loved it. And I initially wanted to be a dancer, ballet dancer, and then grew the wrong way, so couldn't do that. And I was doing my A-levels at school, didn't have any sort of immediate ambitions to do anything, and got asked to audition for a children's television series. And I auditioned for it and I got it. So I left school 6 months into my A-levels. And then I did that. And then I went to the Royal Exchange in Manchester to do Pride and Prejudice. And then I went to drama school. So I sort of did it the wrong way round.
I was going to say, that's quite interesting. You worked professionally and then went into drama school. Was that quite a big decision? And did lots of people say, well, you're doing it, you don't need to go to drama school?
No, nobody said that to me. Nobody said that to me at all. My mother in particular said, in order to be an actress, you have to go to drama school. So I think there were certain technical things I needed to learn, but in retrospect, I don't know if it was the right idea, but you know.
Do you believe that now? Do you believe you need to go to drama school in order to be an actress?
No, I don't. I think that if you have an aptitude and a talent, I don't think that that's something that can be taught. I think you can be taught how to, the technicalities of how to project your voice or to sing or to dance. But I think unless you have an innate response to it, I'm not sure whether that can be taught. And sort of, you know, conversely, I'm not sure whether now in you know, the time of throat mics and things like that, and people being allowed to be new, I'm not sure whether that is as necessary anymore.
What was your experience of drama school like?
Well, I did musical theatre at drama school because it was what I loved the most. And so I did that. So we, you know, got to do amazing musicals and amazing dance classes with incredible people. And have I ever been in a musical? No.
Would you like to be?
Oh, so much.
Me too.
So much, more than anything.
I know which one you choose as well.
Yeah, you do. But I loved drama school. I loved being with the people. I'm sorry that I wasn't a bit older when I went.
How old were you?
I went on my 19th birthday.
Quite unusual. Well, yeah, they usually don't take people at 18, do they? They usually give it a couple of years. So still very young to go.
Yeah, and I think I hadn't done quite enough living. And I think maybe I should have waited a couple of years. But then who knows? You know, I can't take back anything.
Yeah.
But I think in an ideal world, maybe I would have gone a little bit older.
What do you think your biggest takeout from drama school was?
That the biggest thing that you can take from drama school, other than, you know, suddenly if you discover that you have an aptitude for Chekhov or Shakespeare or Sondheim or, you know, whatever it is, that you didn't previously know. I think the biggest thing I took from drama school is that you have to be generous enough to celebrate your contemporaries' successes. And that I think if you're at drama school, you can feel quite, you know, you get to the third year and you can feel like quite a big fish in a small pond. And I think a generosity of spirit, because you're so pitted against each other at drama school.
Wow.
I think that to have a generosity of spirit about celebrating people, and rather than going, oh my God, they've got an agent, I haven't got an agent, why did they get that part? I didn't get seen for that part. I'm always up against that. You know, just to kind of accept it and celebrate your friends.
I think that's really important, to surround yourself with people that you celebrate and that celebrate you in your community and friendship groups.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this industry is hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
And I think we can all get so bogged down with thinking, oh, they're doing better than me, or they always get that break, or they only got that break because. And I think we have to start letting go of that. But I'm in what I consider to be quite a lucky position in the fact that I'm now that much older than I was. And you can look on it in a slightly more reflective way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Can we talk about your process, if indeed you have one? Some people, I have chats on here and some people don't, and they're just like, and for me, certainly, I had no idea what I did really until I started hearing people talk about it. I'm like, oh, actually, I do that. Maybe I do have a process. I didn't have a clue, because I, one of the people, didn't go to like one of the big drama schools, which I really wanted to do. But yeah, what is your process from, let's talk about when you first get a script. How do you analyze a character? How do you figure out how you're going to play it? Do you have a journey that you go through with it?
Do you mean before you get the part, or do you mean when you've got the part?
Good question, because I'd like to know both. Let's talk about when you've got the part to begin with, and then it would be really great to talk about an audition script, which we all know is very different because you don't get that much information, and how you might handle that. So let's go with you've got the job.
I think, gosh, it's a really good question. I think you have to go through a part and think, is there anything in here that resonates with me personally?
Yep.
Is there anything that, you know, when you read a line in a script, you can feel if it like gives you a bit of a heart dart, you know? I don't know. I think I've always been fairly instinctual on parts.
Yeah.
You know, I've not been in a position very often where I've just been offered a part. I've had to audition for it. So I have to trust that whatever a director has seen me do or bring to it is the right thing to do. Yeah, there was one part that I got that was a play that meant a huge amount to me, and I was just offered it, and I spent, I mean, like 3 weeks before we started rehearsals, panicking that I wasn't going to be good enough to do it. But then I think, you know, you have to look at like all the productions of Hamlet that go on. They're the same words, but it's just what that particular person brings to that part. And so I think if you can go on instinct and truthfulness, I think. I've probably not answered that question very well.
No, but okay, so can I push you a little bit further just on the this play in particular, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which is a play that you and I are in together at the moment. So you are playing a woman that is, fair to say, she's 1 billion years old. And when you came to accessing this character, I suppose, did you have some ideas about the physicality, or do you wait until it all comes out in? Because for me, I think I like a director to guide me. If I'm doing it by myself, I get a bit scared of it. So I'm like, I'll wait until I get into the rehearsal room so I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think if you're playing somebody who is maybe a similar age to the age that you are, or a physicality or things like that, I think that's exactly what I would do. But with this one in particular, I mean, apart from delving into a deep hole of despair about the fact that the week that I got offered it, I turned 50. And I was like, that's it, billion years old from now on.
No.
There were certain people that I very much thought about,
Yeah.
older women who I consider to be extraordinary women. And with this play in particular, because I'm playing a grandmother, I based a lot of the relationship between me and Letty, my granddaughter, on my mother and my son, which is a totally different relationship than I would probably have thought about before. But I think you're right. I think if it's a part that is quite close to you in physicality and age and all of those things, I think you need a director to say, bring more of that out, or have you thought about this bit, or
yeah.
Yeah.
But interesting how we can find those relationships that are surrounding us and go, that reminds me of what this might be, and sort of borrow from pieces of our own story to put into a character.
That's all we are.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. And it's only the only person who can play this part like you is you. Because even if somebody tried to emulate it, they would still be bringing part of themselves to it. And I think sometimes we underestimate that. That's right or wrong. Sometimes it can be totally wrong, but nevertheless, it's unique, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And only we can do it that way. We are our own person.
Exactly.
So
with our own experiences, with our own feelings, with our, the way one line might speak to you that for somebody else, they're like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. And by the way you play old Mrs. Hemstock, I have to say, it is brilliant. It changes every night in such brilliant ways. It's always interesting, and you definitely give her a rock and roll edge.
I'll give you the money later.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what do you have? I know that you've done a lot of audiobooks, which I'm sort of amazed by, because what an exhausting. I've done one, and I didn't want to talk ever again after I did it. And you've done so many, and that's a completely different skill. And I've heard you doing all your different accents, and you can like nail any accent instantly. It's quite extraordinary.
Have you heard my Liverpudlian?
Your Liverpudlian's good, isn't it?
My Liverpudlian's really terrible, and my father was a Liverpudlian,
really?
So it's really embarrassing.
But what type of work do you feel most at home doing, would you say? Like from the audiobooks to plays to TV, film?
Nothing where a camera's pointing at me. Absolutely nothing. Because then I'm forced to confront what I look like and what I sound like. Ironically, the audiobooks don't make me feel quite the same way. I love the theatre above and beyond anything. I love doing radio. I played an 11-year-old not that long ago on the radio, which I thought was quite cool. I love the ability to play all sorts of different people. But there's a I was talking to somebody else in our cast this morning about the theatre, and it's that thing that, if you're not part of something that gets recorded or or filmed in any way in the theatre, then on the last night of that run, it is like someone set fire to a piece of tissue paper.
Yeah.
And it's ephemeral, and it exists only in people's minds. And that's and I really love that, because I think that so often, especially with films, and especially over lockdown, I think we were able to access things so much more readily that, I don't know about you, but I sort of started watching them with sort of half an eye, if you know what I mean. Whereas going to the theatre, you just have to watch it, because unless you're lucky enough to go and see it again, that's the only time you're going to get to see it. And I love that.
That's the magic of it, isn't it?
Yeah. It's proper magic.
And when I think back of the shows that I saw when I was a little girl, and one of them was Greece at the Dominion, and and just that feeling, and when I think I might smell something that reminds and takes me back to that feeling of just awe,
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And we're really lucky to have had that. Really lucky.
Yeah.
And to have got inspired by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. With the audiobooks, now this is a question that I'm fascinated by. Do you sit and read the whole book first, and do you map out what your characters are, what voices they're going to have, and how the hell do you flip from one to the other so quickly? I mean, it's a mammoth task.
So I read it first all the way through.
Yeah.
Then I go back to the beginning and I read it again, and I annotate with different colours all the different characters. Then I go back to the beginning again, and I will underline, if a sentence is said in a different way than you would normally say it. So if suddenly somebody gets cross halfway through a sentence, I'd map that out. And then my secret to doing a lot of these sort of multi-voiced books is that you cast it in your mind. So you actually, not that you do an impression of the person, but that you just keep that person in your head when you're doing a scene with them in. I did during lockdown, I did 7 books called the Furic Saga. I think the longest one was over 1,000 pages long. And we got to the end and we realized there were 168 characters. 90 something of them were sort of Scandinavian Viking men. I don't have many voices for those.
How?
Pretty much the same. But I think that's the only way you can do it, is you or not even a famous person. You cast a person that you know, or you think about something about their voice that makes them different from the next person.
Yeah. Have you had to do books that you can't stand? You probably can't say that.
Probably can't say it, but yeah.
We just won't say which ones.
No, I mean, I've been really lucky to do some amazing ones.
Okay. So talking, we were talking about the script and what you do, your process, and how you dissect a script from when you get a job. What about an audition and self-taping? The world of self-taping. The face says it all. How do we feel about that these days?
I mean, it sort of goes back to what I was saying before. I think, now when you get a self-tape, and apart from the fact that you have, so I have a real problem learning them. I know that that's probably not something that you have because of your facility for it.
Oh, no, it is. Learning lines is not my forte.
I panic and I hate it. So there's a lot of things stuck to curtains and walls and things like that. But, so often key bits of information are blocked out, and you don't know who this person is, and you don't know what relation they are to the person they're in the scene with. So I sort of go back to what I was saying before. I think we all have to be realistic in the fact that we understand that there are God knows how many people sending in self-tapes. I think we have to understand and appreciate that whoever is casting it and whoever has written it and directing it probably has an idea of the kind of person they want, and that you just have to do it to the best of your ability at that moment. And if your face happens to be the one that fits the template that they have for that person, then that's when you get the part. But I think, I know people who don't learn it at all. I know people who will do self-taping for 6 hours and go over it and over it and over it. I tend to do them with my son, with Sammy. And he goes, you get 2 goes at this. He said, as long as you don't make any mistakes, you get 2 goes. You don't get any more. And he's quite right, I think. Because then you start overanalyzing it and you start, you know, well, he says I just start acting. So.
He's bang on. That is what so many people say. You'll always, even if you do 6, go back to one of the first 2.
Yeah.
Well done, Sammy.
I think so. Well done, Sammy. Top. Yeah.
Out of all of the work that you've done on stage, I know you've been part of some brilliant productions. Do you have something that stays in your heart that you are most proud of?
I'm most proud. Yeah, the play that I said that I got offered, I hadn't worked for a long time. And you know, it was that moment where I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure if I can carry on doing this. And David Babani, who runs the Menier Chocolate Factory, which is a theatre that I really love, phoned my agent and said, we're doing a production of Pack of Lies by Hugh Whitemore, which is an amazing play. And we want Finty to be in it. Now, the history to that is that the last time it was done in London was 30 years before. And my mum and dad played the 2 leads in it. I actually won an Olivier for it. We both say, and she wouldn't mind me saying this, my dad should have won the Olivier because he was astonishingly brilliant in it. So there's the part of like 2 police women in it. And I thought that they were offering me one of those 2 parts. And he came back and he said, no, we want her to play Barbara Jackson. Actually gets me a bit choked up just even thinking about it. And I burst into tears and I said yes. And then I put the phone down and went, I can't do that. I can't do that because that's like standing in front of a wall and giving critics machine guns to go, she's not as good as her mother. But it was thanks to Hannah Chiswick, who directed it, and Paul Farnsworth, who designed it, and Chris Larkin and Jasper Britton, who were in it, and Tracy Ann Oberman and Alistair Harvey. And like, it was the singular most terrifying and most extraordinary experience that I've ever had. And it was hard. It was a hard play. Very emotional, very difficult play. It's a true story. But I would do it every night for the rest of my life.
Really? Wow.
Interspersed with Alan Ayckbourn's Bedroom Farce, which I've played the same part 3 times.
Oh, really? Has it been very different every time?
No, it's been exactly the same. But that huge amounts of joy.
Yeah.
Huge. If I could do those 2 plays, possibly in rep forever with, you know, a month of Ocean at the End of the Lane dotted here and there, then I'd be a really incredibly lucky and very happy person.
You've just got us for the next 6 months, Vince. Who knows what's happening after? That is such a big part of our industry, isn't it? That we have to embrace the uncertainty, not knowing what's coming next. And I always speak to my guests on here about mental health, and I suffer quite often with imposter syndrome and a lot of self-doubt, and have to actively do work around managing that because I don't feel good enough for for my own sort of personal reasons. How do you manage that? Is there something you do to kind of counteract?
Well, because I'm in recovery and have been for a long time, whenever I get the sort of maybe slightly impostery syndrome voices in my head, or I'm not good enough, I have to go, well, do you know what, you have to be a little bit good enough, because quite frankly you're here, and really I probably shouldn't be here. If I hadn't changed my life the way I did. Imposter syndrome, totally, all the time, 100%. I have it in this company because I'm the oldest woman in the company, because I can't move or do the same sort of physical stuff that everybody else can do. At the moment, I'm finding that quite hard. I'm finding it quite hard not being 26. But we're lucky. we're lucky if we're working. And if we're working, then it must mean that somebody has believed in us enough to give us the job. And therefore, we have to honour that. But yeah, imposter syndrome the whole
God, it's
time.
such a bitch, isn't it?
You know, and I had a review when I was 23. I was playing the lead in a Molière play above a pub, as you do. And somebody, a critic for the Evening Standard, came to see it and said, William's like her mother in looks, if not in talent. And I will go to my grave having that emblazoned on the back of my head. I feel like it's always there, constantly there. And my boyfriend says to me, you know, but what about the good reviews? Where are they? What do they say? And I can't remember those, but I remember, and that's 27 years ago.
It's extraordinary, isn't it, how that part of the tape is the one that we choose to replay. That negative comment, the one, you know, is the one that we choose to remember, when there have been so many wonderful things as well.
And I wonder whether, you know, I think probably you'd agree with me in the fact that we've both met some actors who, not in a criticizing way at all, but they are people who I can only describe them as that they have something other than blood running through their veins. They have steel. And I'm very jealous of that. And I wonder whether they remember the bad ones, or whether they're maybe wired differently to me, that they only see the good ones. Or I wonder that a lot. I wonder how many people in this industry walk around feeling really fearful all the time.
It's really common with us, isn't it? You know, and there's a reason for that, because, which leads me to my next question, which is about rejection and the brutality of that and how we handle that, because we have a lifetime of it. And I wonder if that feeds into it.
I think if you can't do that bit, of course, look, there are always going to be jobs that you get down to the last two for, and you've, you know, had 7 auditions and recalls, and you've jumped through all the hoops, and then you find out that it's gone to somebody else. And, you know, I can think of like 3 in my entire career that have hurt, not because I don't want it for the other person, but because I just so desperately wanted to play the part. But I think rejection is part of our industry. I think you have to understand how to deal with that. And I think it has changed a bit, I hope. Maybe it's more to do with my age, I don't know. But like, you know, I remember starting out and people saying you're too fat. You know, you're not thin enough. You know, actors need to be a size 6. And I think that's changed. I hope it's changed.
Changing.
And I think that's a different thing, because that's a personal attack. If you don't get the job, then you're just not what the overview that the director had. And of course it's going to hurt. Of course it is. And you choose whether or not you're going to go and see it. There are a couple of things I didn't go and see.
Me too. I was like, can't watch that. Can't watch that. Need to let it go.
That's it. You just let it go. You just, okay, well, somebody else, you know, the day that you get the no, somebody else is celebrating. We have to remember that. We have to remember to be kinder to each other in this industry.
Yeah.
And genuinely celebrate people.
Yeah, I agree. And what would you say, just before we come to an end, is the best bit about what you do for you? Yeah.
The people, without a shadow of a doubt. Meeting people who you would never normally meet, working with people you wouldn't normally work with, learning so much from them. Yeah, that to me is everything. Always has been. And the fact that for 2.5 hours a night, if you're in the theatre, you get to stand on stage and you can be somebody who is not suffering from any of the things that I, Finty, or you, Charlie, suffer from day. You can walk onto that stage and be somebody completely different. And in my head, I'm 22 and, you know, a size 4 with, you know, great legs. But that's okay, because for that 2.5 hours, that's all right to be that. And then I can go, oh, maybe it's not so bad to be Finty again after that. Then.
If you could speak to your younger self, then what would you say?
Don't do it. Oh gosh, what would I say? What would I say? It's slightly different. I went to drama school. My mother hadn't. She was a great UK based theatre actress when I went to drama school, and in my second year she got the Bond films, and the year after I left she got Mrs. Brown, and that changed her persona and changed her fame, for the want of a better word. So if I'm allowed the hindsight of that, I'd say, Finn, do you remember that forensic psychology thing that you were really interested in? Maybe have a look at that.
Right.
Just know that this might happen and that this will change the playing field. And it's okay. If you want to do it, then it's okay to be you.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Finty. Thank you for your open, honest contribution to this chat. I really appreciate it. It's an absolute honour for me to have you on here. And any advice for anyone breaking into the industry, apart from don't do it?
No, do it. Do it with joy. Do it with kindness. Do it with every single piece of you. And do it until it doesn't make you happy anymore. And then find the thing that does make you happy. And just love the people that you're surrounded with.
Well, I can say from the bottom of my heart, you are doing this with absolute kindness, and you're sensational in this play. So I'm honoured to be working with you, and I love you so much. Thank you for coming on IAMPRO, Finty Williams. Yay! See you soon.